Good afternoon, Telvin. Yes, now it's connected.
Okay.
All right, so shall we start now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so before starting today's session, let me do a quick quiz so that we can evaluate ourselves, right?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let's move on to the quiz part. And so yesterday we discussed about DBMS architecture, right?
Sir.
So let's see the quiz for DBMS architecture. Do you see my screen, Telvin?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please pay attention and read the first question.
Okay, sir. Initiate, indicate layers between database and clients.
Yes, so we are talking about the intermediate layer between database and client server.
Oh,
So if you remember, we discussed three layers yesterday: physical layer called database tier layer, then we discussed about application layer, then the presentation layer. So if you pay attention here and you will read this sentence again, it says intermediate layer between database and client server.
so
Intermediate, pay attention to what called intermediate layer.
so we speak our good art.
Yes.
The well, we can't say application because
Mhm. Let's go ahead.
yes, sir. It's application.
It's application layer. And why do you think it's the application layer?
Because is the as Stefan said yesterday.
Mhm.
Marshall told Stefan say okay.
Let me revise that again. Application layers deals with how data is to be stored in a database. So it acts as an interface between a database and end user, or you can say a different application. So it's an interface between database and the client.
Okay, sir.
So with the help of application layer, you will you will interact and you will feed data into a database.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, it's an intermediate layer. If you see, in the diagram, we have three layers. At the bottom we have a physical layer, then in between we have application, then top we have physical layer. So if you see the diagram, then you will again easily identify which is the middle layer or which is the intermediate layer. It's the application layer.
Application layer.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
So the application layer is the correct answer for this question, right?
Okay, sir.
So we are moving to a next question. In this question, we says application tier in a three-tier architecture. Here we are talking about the application layer. Communicates with a database system to access what? Application layer communicates with the database to access what? Telvin, am I audible to you? I think your audio is disconnected. Yes, Telvin, now
Yes,
you
sir.
are connected. The question is that application layer communicates with the database system to access what? What we have access?
Data.
Data.
Data, sir.
All right. So the answer is data.
Data.
Perfect. Next is the term that order data numerically or alphabetically.
Sorted. So
Yes.
sorted.
Yes, sorting is a term that is associated with the arrangement of data.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Next is the view that looks similar to Microsoft Excel sheet.
Data sheet, sir.
Data sheet view.
Sheet view.
Yes, because it has rows and columns.
Columns. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So next is which of the following is not the data type?
We have data, sir.
Data. All right. So
Yeah.
currency is a type of data, memo is a type of data, number is a type of data, and data is not a type, it's a data itself.
Yeah.
Perfect. And next is which of the following is not an Microsoft Access database object? When you start Microsoft Access application, on the left hand side you see different access objects. So which object do
Yeah.
you see there, and which object you will not see? So you have to identify the object.
Yeah, we see equals, we found square. Sorry, data sheet.
Yes, perfect, perfect. Individual data items is known as.
Field, sir.
Why it's field, Kelvin?
Because
Why not record?
no, sir, it's field because
Because records have more than one value.
more than one name.
Yes,
Yeah, more than one one.
right. So if you have multiple columns and you have data about each column, then it becomes a record. And here we're talking about an individual item. Individual item is known as column or a field.
More than one.
Right. So next is the size of yes no field in Microsoft Access.
Size. Yes or no field. 1 bit, sir.
1 bit. Let me try
Yeah.
this. Perfect. So because you will be storing data in a true and false manner.
Yeah.
So if it's yes, it will be true. If it's no, it's a false, it's zero.
Four. Yes, sir.
What can be the maximum length of a text field?
255.
Yes, perfect. The columns in Microsoft Access tables are also called.
It's same question. They just put it over in a different context. So this
Yes,
answer is field, sir.
yes. So fields and columns are the same thing.
Yeah.
Which type of data should we use if we are planning to store a couple of paragraphs?
More detailed description in field. Memo, sir. Memo, yeah.
Right. Which of the following database object hold data?
It's an object called data. Table, sir.
Right. So you store data in a table.
Table, yeah.
Which of the following shows the final result in a presentable way?
Reports.
Right. A database program that replaces what piece of office equipment? What piece of office equipment we replace with a database?
A filing cabinet.
Yes, you don't need a file cabinet
Yeah.
because you have data stored in a computer.
Yeah.
Next is primary keys.
Mm. Primary keys are used to identify a unique set of records. True, sir.
All right. Validation.
Validation. Hmm. Can ensure that no incorrect data is entered. Validation. When we speak about validation,
Validation means certain constraints you set when you input some data in a database. Let's say
yes, sir.
you have to enter a telephone number. So telephone number cannot be alphabet. It would be a numeric number, right?
Yeah,
So
yes,
that
sir.
is a validation.
So the answer is true, sir.
True.
Yes.
Perfect. So we have answered all the questions. Okay, let's move to today's topic. And today we'll be talking about different keys. Now, Telvin, I want you to please pay attention and try to make a note carefully. And this is a
Yes,
very
sir.
crucial topic today, because it will confuse people if you will not
Yes, sir.
understand it carefully, right? So today we will see what is key, what is primary key, candidate key, alternate keys, all kind of keys we will learn. We'll learn about domain, attribute, entity, and how to set properties of different fields in Microsoft Access, and how to feed data using form, right?
Okay, sir.
So first we'll move to the concept called key. The
Yes, sir.
key basically is a column, or you can say a field in a table, which helps to identify a row in a table. So with the help of key, you can identify a row uniquely in a table. It's called a key. So key is a concept, right?
Yes, sir.
Any value that is used to fetch record individually. So if you see in the table, you have three columns. You have ID, you have first name, and you have last name.
Last name,
And
yes.
let's say I want to see the record of Deborah. So what will I do here? I'll look for a first name. I'll find it's duplicacy here. Deborah is twice, right?
Yes, sir.
Deborah is twice. So it becomes difficult for me to identify which record am I talking about. So we need a key to uniquely distinguish between records.
Yes, sir.
That is a key here. So we have ID number, and if you see in the table, ID for Deborah Woods is 33 and ID for Deborah Waldron is 22. So with the help of ID, we can make a comparison and we make a difference.
Yeah.
So we'll ask a database that, yes, I'm talking about Deborah Woods. So please fetch record of Deborah Woods, and Deborah Woods ID is 33, right? So this is the
Yes, sir.
importance of key. Key helps us to uniquely identify any record in the table.
Yes, sir.
And we have varieties of keys available. We have composite key, we have alternate key, foreign key, candidate key, and all kind of keys. We'll see in the next slide. And I hope the concept of key is clear to you now. What is key?
Yes, sir.
So if somebody asks what is key, what will you answer?
I will basically give them an example. They get, they have Telvin, right, sir?
Right.
Multiple Telvins and multiple student ID. So I'm gonna select one one student ID, and then place it into like we did in classes where you had to find the the one name, then it identify, then every single Telvin pop up on the screen alone except for John.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Yes, yes.
So what we need, we have to uniquely fetch each record. So
Yeah.
to identify each record uniquely, we should have one column in the table to establish this uniqueness. So we have
Yeah.
ID. So ID separates each record. ID is unique for everybody. Similar in a class, or maybe in a, in a school, you see everybody has a unique roll number. So the teacher identify each student with a roll number,
Yeah.
right? Because there are possibilities to have more than one student with the same name.
Yeah.
All right. So key is a, something you can say it's a column or a set of columns that is used to identify each record uniquely.
Uniquely. Okay, sir.
Yes, Telvin, pay attention on the word here. I'm saying column or set of columns. So it could be a single column that can help you to uniquely identify each record, or it could be a group of columns that you use to identify each record.
Okay, sir.
Let's take an example. You have two brothers studying in the same class and the same schools, and they have same address, they have same phone number, they have same class, and they have same surnames. So it becomes difficult for the teacher to identify it. So what teacher will do it here? Teacher will look for a uniqueness, will look for a unique column. With the help of, she can identify them. So she will be assigning a unique roll number to each, right?
Yes, sir.
So with the help of a roll number, she can identify, which student is which, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's move to the next slide.
Primary key.
Okay, now we have primary key. In DBMS,
Yes, sir.
primary key is a column or a set of columns which helps to identify a row in a table. So don't mix this definition with the definition of key. The definition
It's
is
too different.
definition is similar. Key is a big concept. Key could be primary key, it could be
Unique.
any key,
Unique.
right? But primary
Yes,
key
sir.
is a specific column in your table that you use to identify each record, right? So there are certain conditions we are imposing with the primary key here.
Yes, sir.
If you see in the note part, I have mentioned that primary key cannot be a duplicate. You cannot have more than two persons having same ID. Every record should have a unique ID. if
Okay, sir.
if you are making any column as a primary key, then you have to ensure that you have unique ID for each record. There should not be any duplicacy. If there is a
Okay, sir.
if there is a if there is a duplicacy, then that column will not become a primary key column, right?
Yes, sir.
Next is primary key cannot be null. Null means we cannot leave
Leave
empty.
blanks.
Yes, we cannot
Yeah.
leave it blank. Next, it can't be modified or updated. If table has a relation, if you have two or more tables linked together, then you cannot modify each entry. You cannot modify the primary key. You have to break the relation, then only you can modify it, because it will
Okay.
impact other records.
Okay, sir.
All right. And now if you see in this table, we have student ID as a primary key. So you see primary key is not duplicated. Everybody has a unique
You can. Yeah.
ID. Yes. And next is it's not null. All cells have data. we
Yeah.
we cannot make a first name as a primary key, because in a first name we have a duplicacy of name.
Yeah.
And we can also not use the last name as a primary key, because in a last name, if you see at the last record, we don't have any data. And as
Yes,
per
sir.
the rule of primary key cannot be null. So we cannot make a last name as a primary key. Hope you understand the concept of primary key here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we are moving to the next key called candidate keys. Candidate key is a column or a set of column which are eligible to become primary key. Pay attention on the word called eligible.
Eligible.
Yes, the keys, the columns which are eligible to become primary key are known as candidate keys. And the constraint for the candidate key are same. It cannot be null, it cannot have duplicate values, it contains only the unique values and must identify each record. uh, Telvin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So candidate key is again set of columns that are eligible to become a primary key. So if you see here in the table, in this table, yes, in this table, if you see roll number, we can use roll number as a primary key because everybody has a unique number, right? And it's not duplicated. Can we use email ID as a primary key here?
Yes, sir.
Because everybody has a unique email address.
Yeah, everybody have a unique address.
So can we use ID number as a primary key here?
Yes, sir.
So we see here, we have multiple columns that can be used to become a primary key here, right?
Yes.
So we choose one column. We'll choose one column as a primary key, and the remaining columns which are eligible to become primary key are called candidate keys.
Okay, sir.
So you see in this table we have three columns which are eligible to become primary key, and we are choosing ID as a primary column as a primary key, and remaining two columns called roll number and email IDs are called candidate keys.
Yes, sir.
Hope the concept is clear to you now, Tilvin.
Yes, sir. Making my notes.
So you have to pay attention on the word called eligible. If you have more than one column which are eligible to become primary keys, those columns are called candidate key. So we have three columns which are eligible to become primary key, and we chose ID as a primary key column, and remaining two columns will be the candidate keys.
Okay, sir.
Right?
Eligible.
Eligible. Is it clear to you, Telvin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, move to a next point. Next, we have alternate key. Alternate keys. All the keys which are not primary key are called alternate keys. It is a candidate key which is currently not the primary key. So, Telvin, if you please pay attention and understand thoroughly what I'm talking here.
Okay, sir.
I'm talking about the columns which are not primary columns, which are not the primary key columns, are called the alternate keys. In the previous slide, we discussed three columns: ID, roll number, and email IDs, that we can use it to make it as a primary key. And we chose ID as a primary key, and remaining three columns are called the candidate keys.
Yes, sir.
If you see here, ID, roll number, and email, these three columns are the eligible columns to become primary key. So these columns are called candidate keys
Okay, sir.
because these are eligible columns. And out of these eligible columns, if I choose ID, then ID will become a primary key. right? And remaining two columns, roll number and email, will be called the alternate keys. Please try to understand this table here. I have marked primary key, candidate keys, and alternate keys. So in the concept of candidate keys, we say the column which is eligible to become a primary key is called candidate keys. So we found three columns in this table which are eligible to become primary key, and the primary key cannot be null, cannot be duplicate, right? And must have unique value. So if you say email address has a unique entry and it's not duplicated, and it has all data, there is no empty record. Similarly, we have id that is unique, no duplicacy, no null value, and the roll number. So these three columns are eligible to become a primary key. And now out of these three columns, we chose id as a primary key. We can also choose a roll number. But we chose id here. So ID is a primary key, and remaining two columns called roll number and email address, remaining two columns are left, and these columns are called alternate key.
Okay, sir.
Telvin, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So is it possible for you to define the key here? What is a candidate key, what is primary key, and what is alternate key?
Yes, sir.
Please define. Start with the primary key.
Primary key.
Yes.
Primary key is going to be the student ID.
No, what if somebody asks the definition of primary key and what is primary key, what you define, how you will define the primary key?
Okay. Primary key.
Telvin, primary
Yes, sir.
key, primary key is the column.
Relational, like.
No, please pay attention. Primary key is the column or a set of column in a table which are used to identify each record uniquely.
Uniquely.
Yes. Primary key cannot be null. Primary key cannot have duplicate values, right?
Yes, sir.
And primary key cannot be, it should have unique value, cannot be duplicated, and it should not have any null data, no data.
Okay, sir.
So that is called a primary key. And the columns or set of columns which are eligible to become primary key are called candidate columns or candidate keys. In this table, yes, in this table we have email ID, roll number, and student ID. These three columns are used as a candidate key because out of these columns we can choose any column as a primary key because all are carrying the same properties of primary key, right?
Yes, sir.
These three columns are holding the properties of primary key because the data in these columns are unique, and we can uniquely fetch any record with the help of these columns. Also, there is no duplicacy. Second, there is no null value. So these eligible columns are called candidate keys, and out of these columns I chose id as a primary key, and remaining columns, remaining roll number and email column, will become the alternate key for.
Okay, sir.
Let's take an example of an election system. Let's say you have an election in any country and you have multiple candidates who wants to become president of the country. They applied in the election and hello. Yes, Talvin. So they applied in election and they are fighting for to become a president. So these are the different candidates we have, and out of these candidates, we choose one as a president. That is the primary key. Telvin, do you
Okay, sir.
understand?
Yes, sir.
See, there are many participants who wants to take part in a president election. So they are from different parties, and these candidates take part. They have certain criteria. So they apply in an election, and out of these candidates we choose one as a primary key or a president for the country. Similarly, in this
Yeah.
table we have three candidates that fulfill the eligibility criteria to become candidate keys, and out of these candidates we choose one as a primary key, and remaining columns will become alternate key.
Ultimate key.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Is it clear to you, Telvin?
Yes, sir.
If you have any difficulty to understand this concept, please ask again. I will help you to to explain you in more
Clear it.
detail. Yes.
Okay,
So
sir.
I will not be going further about foreign key and other things. So please, better you pay attention on these basic concept: what is key and what is primary key, what is candidate keys, and what is alternate key.
Ultimate key.
Yes. And once you clear with this key concept, then only I'll move to foreign key and other concepts, right? So you
Okay,
first
sir.
please pay attention only on primary key, alternate key, and candidate key. So read 3 4 slides, from this presentation, so that you will get an idea about what is a key. Also, I
Key.
can share a YouTube link with you that you can watch a video to get an idea about what is key I'm talking here.
Okay, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much for today's session, because we have a 40 minutes limitation and time is about to end. So I will be stopping my session right now. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Please take care. Thank you so much for the session. All right.
Sir, thank you. Yeah.
All right.